The underestimated arrival. The Nexus station floated like a crystalline jewel against the swirling maelstrom of the galactic core, its transparent walls offering breathtaking views of dancing nebulae and newborn stars. Inside its grand amphitheater, representatives from 47 species had gathered for what many considered the most important event in galactic civilization, the Quantum Reality Championships. For 2 centuries, this tournament had determined not just bragging rights, but actual resource allocation across 3 spiral arms. The winner's species received preferential trading routes, mining rights to rare element asteroids, and most importantly, respect in the galactic community. It was serious business wrapped in the package of sophisticated entertainment. Ambassador Velfar of the crystalline hegemony adjusted her geometric form as she surveyed the assembled delegates. Her species had evolved from living minerals, and she took pride in their logical, structured approach to everything. The championship made perfect sense to her kind because it was orderly, predictable, and rewarded the superior species with superior benefits. "The humans are late," she transmitted to her companion, Ambassador Zexlor of the Void Swimmers. Typical organic inefficiency. Zexlor's gaseous form shimmered with what passed for amusement among his people. "I find their inclusion curious. Earth barely achieved interstellar flight 50 cycles ago. What could they possibly contribute to a competition that has been refined over 2 centuries? Around them, other delegates echoed similar sentiments. The tournament had evolved into a sophisticated affair where species brought their finest military strategists, their most advanced AI systems, and their most perfectly engineered biological specimens. Victory required mastering complex quantum physics, multi-dimensional tactical thinking, and the ability to adapt to environments that existed only in mathematical possibility. The current champion, Supreme Overlord Kethvar of the Apex Collective, stood motionless in his preparation chamber. His species had evolved as the ultimate predators on a world where everything tried to kill everything else. Standing 12 feet tall with obsidian carapace and 6 independently functioning brains, Kethvar represented the pinnacle of biological warfare evolution. He hadn't lost a single match in 200 years. Director Omnis, the artificial intelligence that oversaw the championships, projected its holographic form above the central arena. "Attention delegates, we await only the human representative before beginning final preparations." The statement was met with various expressions of impatience across 47 different physiologies. Some species considered tardiness a sign of fundamental weakness. Others saw it as disrespectful to galactic protocol. Perhaps they reconsidered, suggested a delegate from the Hive Mind Collective. It would show wisdom to withdraw rather than face certain humiliation. That was when the transport dock chimed with an incoming vessel. All attention turned to the viewing screens as a modest human craft approached the station. Unlike the sleek, impressive vessels that had delivered other delegates, this ship looked almost apologetic in its simplicity. The docking bay doors opened, and out stepped Maya Torres. She was not what anyone expected. While other species had sent their most imposing representatives dressed in ceremonial armor or equipped with technological enhancements, Maya wore simple pants and a jacket with Earth engineering cores stitched on the shoulder. She carried a basic travel bag and what appeared to be a cup of coffee. "Sorry about the delay," she called out to the reception committee, her voice carrying an odd cheerfulness that seemed inappropriate for such a momentous occasion. "Had to make a quick stop for fuel. Your deep space stations don't carry the octane rating our engines need." Ambassador Velfar's crystalline structure flickered with what her species experienced as profound confusion. This human was treating the championship like a casual visit to a neighbor's home. "Representative Torres," Director Omnis announced with the kind of patience that only artificial intelligences possessed, "you are scheduled for orientation and preparation. The quantum simulation requires extensive neural mapping and strategic analysis." Maya nodded while taking a sip of her coffee. "Right, the VR thing. Where do I plug in?" The casual reference to the galaxy's most sophisticated virtual reality system as the VR thing sent ripples of disbelief through the assembled delegates. Some began to wonder if the humans were taking this seriously at all. The orientation chamber was a marvel of technology that most species spent decades trying to understand. Quantum processors created simulated realities so complex they were indistinguishable from actual alternate dimensions. Participants didn't just control avatars. They became them, with all the physical and mental capabilities that implied. Maya looked around the chamber with interest, but not the overwhelming awe that typically accompanied first-time visitors. She approached the neural interface stations like someone examining interesting but familiar equipment. "These quantum stabilizers are nice," she commented to the technician, a nervous member of the Tentacle Confederation. "Though the phase alignment looks a bit off. You might want to recalibrate the quantum resonance frequencies." The technician's 17 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of extreme confusion. "Though the human understands quantum mechanics." "A bit," Maya replied. "I helped design Earth's first quantum computers. Different technology, same principles." This information began circulating among the delegates with increasing concern. Perhaps the humans weren't as primitive as assumed. The simulation itself was where things became truly impressive. The Quantum Reality Championships didn't just test combat skills. They challenged participants to survive and thrive in environments that defied conventional physics. Previous arenas had included dimensions where time flowed backward, spaces where thought became reality, and realms where the fundamental forces of physics operated under entirely different rules. Supreme Overlord Kethvar had mastered them all. His species' multiple brains allowed him to process the complex reality shifts, while his predatory instincts identified threats and opportunities that single-minded species missed entirely. He was, by any measure, the perfect organism for quantum reality survival. Maya spent her preparation time differently than other participants. While previous contestants had undergone intensive strategy sessions, studied recordings of past championships, and optimized their biological or technological enhancements, she simply sat quietly and observed. She watched the quantum processors cycle through their initialization routines. She noted how the reality anchors maintained dimensional stability. She paid attention to the feedback loops that connected the simulation to base reality. Most importantly, she started asking questions. "How often do you update the core programming?" she asked Director Omnis during a technical briefing. "The simulation has been refined continuously for 2 centuries," the AI replied. "It represents the pinnacle of quantum computational achievement." "But when was the last major overhaul of the fundamental architecture?" "The basic framework has remained stable for 173 years. Stability is essential for fair competition." Maya nodded thoughtfully. "And in all that time, no one's found any exploits or unexpected behaviors in the system. The simulation is thoroughly tested. No participant has ever discovered a significant flaw in its construction." That was because, Maya realized, every previous participant had approached the simulation as a challenge to be conquered through superior strategy, enhanced abilities, or advanced technology. They played by the rules because they saw the rules as fundamental laws of the simulated reality. But Maya was an engineer. Engineers didn't just accept that systems worked. They understood how and why they worked. More importantly, engineers knew that all systems had limitations, quirks, and unintended behaviors that their designers never anticipated. As the preparation phase concluded, the delegates gathered to witness the traditional pre-championship ceremony. Supreme Overlord Kethvar dominated the center of the assembly hall, his 6 brains processing multiple conversation threads simultaneously, while his combat appendages remained perfectly still. He was a living weapon that had never known defeat. "The human concerns me," he transmitted to Director Omnis in a frequency only artificial intelligences could perceive. "She observes the simulation infrastructure rather than studying combat strategies. All participants are permitted to prepare as they see fit," the AI responded. "Your concerns seem unnecessary given your perfect record." Kethvar's primary brain remained focused on the conversation, while his secondary brains continued monitoring the human. There was something about her casual demeanor that triggered his predatory instincts. In nature, the most dangerous prey was often the kind that didn't seem afraid. The ceremony concluded with Director Omnis announcing the championship parameters. The final arena would be the most challenging ever created. A multi-dimensional maze where the laws of physics changed every 60 seconds. Participants would need to adapt constantly while pursuing objectives that shifted based on the reality configuration. Victory conditions are simple, Director Omnis announced. Eliminate your opponent or achieve dimensional mastery of the arena space. The challenge begins in 12 hours. As delegates dispersed to their final preparation rituals, Maya remained in the amphitheater, still sipping her coffee and studying the quantum projection displays that showed preview glimpses of the arena. Ambassador Velthar approached her, with curiosity overriding her species' typical disdain for organic inefficiency. Human, are you not concerned about facing Supreme Overlord Cathar? He has never been defeated. Maya looked up from her coffee with a slight smile. Everyone's undefeated until they're not. Besides, I've been looking at this simulation system all day, and I think I understand something that might be useful. What could you possibly understand that 2 centuries of the galaxy's finest minds have missed? Sometimes the newest eyes see the oldest problems. Maya finished her coffee and stood up. I should get some sleep. Big day tomorrow. As she walked away, leaving Ambassador Velthar in confused silence, Maya was already running through calculations in her mind. The simulation was impressive, but it was still just code running on quantum processors. And like all code, it had been written by someone with assumptions about how it would be used. The championship would begin in 12 hours. Supreme Overlord Cathar would enter the arena expecting another conventional challenge that he could dominate through superior biology and centuries of experience. Maya Torres would enter with something no previous participant had brought to the competition, an engineer's understanding that every system, no matter how sophisticated, had limits that its creators never imagined would be tested. The galaxy was about to learn what humans meant when they said they were good at solving problems. The impossible victory. The championship arena materialized in a cascade of quantum light as reality processors spun up to full power. 47 species watched through dimensional viewing portals as the most complex virtual environment ever created took shape around the 2 finalists. The arena defied conventional description. Geometric platforms floated in impossible arrangements while gravity operated according to rules that shifted every 60 seconds. Walls existed in some dimensions but not others. The very air carried different properties depending on which layer of reality currently dominated the space. Supreme Overlord Cathar entered from the eastern portal, his obsidian carapace gleaming under light sources that existed in 17 different spectrums simultaneously. His 6 brains immediately began processing the arena's complexity, cataloging threats, identifying opportunities, and calculating optimal movement patterns through the shifting dimensional maze. From the western portal, Maya Torres stepped into the arena wearing the same casual clothes she had arrived in. She carried no weapons, displayed no obvious enhancements, and showed no signs of the intense preparation that typically preceded championship matches. She simply looked around with the same mild interest she had shown when examining the space station's docking procedures. BGN, DAEFINALCHAMPIONSHIP, Director Omnis announced, its voice resonating across multiple dimensional frequencies. Cathar immediately launched into motion, his form adapting to the current reality configuration as he navigated the floating platforms with predatory grace. His strategy was proven. Dominate the arena space, force his opponent into reactive positions, then eliminate them with overwhelming force once they made an inevitable mistake. Maya remained on her starting platform, turning slowly as she examined the arena structure. To the watching delegates, she appeared frozen with terror or confusion. Ambassador Velthar transmitted to her companions with smug satisfaction. The human realizes the impossibility of her situation. But Maya wasn't frozen. She was counting. The reality shifts followed a pattern that the arena's designers thought was random, but Maya had spent the previous night analyzing the quantum processor cycles. The randomness was pseudorandom, generated by algorithms that created the illusion of unpredictability while maintaining enough stability to prevent the simulation from collapsing into chaos. 58 seconds, 59, 60. The arena shifted. Gravity reversed. The floating platforms rearranged themselves, and what had been solid walls became permeable barriers. Kethvar adapted instantly, his 6 brains recalculating optimal paths as his body adjusted to the new physical laws. Maya smiled and started walking. She moved across the arena with purpose now, stepping from platform to platform in paths that seemed random but followed the quantum probability matrices she had mapped in her mind. While Kethvar fought against each reality shift, Maya moved with them, using the changes to accelerate her progress rather than hinder it. The human displays unexpected mobility. Director Omnis observed, its analysis routine struggling to categorize Maya's movement patterns. However, Supreme Overlord Kethvar maintains tactical advantage through superior adaptation protocols. That was true for the first 3 reality shifts. Kethvar had positioned himself at what should have been an optimal intercept point, ready to engage Maya in direct combat where his biological superiority would ensure victory. His species had evolved specifically for this kind of multivariable conflict resolution. But Maya wasn't trying to engage him in combat. She was heading for something else entirely. At the arena's center stood the reality anchor, the quantum mechanism that maintained dimensional stability throughout the shifting maze. It was purely decorative in normal championship matches, serving as a visual focal point, while the real control systems operated safely outside the simulation space. Maya reached the reality anchor and placed her hand on its surface. Illegal interaction, Director Omnis announced immediately. PARTISIPANETs may not DIRECTLILN TURFAC with arena control systems. I'm not interfacing with it, Maya called back, her voice carrying clearly through the arena's acoustic enhancement field. I'm just touching it. That's not against the rules, is it? The AI paused for 0.003 seconds, which was equivalent to hours of deliberation in artificial intelligence terms. Maya was technically correct. The rules prohibited interfacing with control systems, but said nothing about physical contact with decorative elements. Contact is permitted, Director Omnis concluded. However, the reality ancor PRV is no functional purpose within THE simulation. Maya's smile widened. Are you sure about that? What happened next would be analyzed by galactic computer scientists for decades to come. Maya had spent her night not just studying the reality shift patterns, but understanding the fundamental architecture of the quantum simulation itself. The reality anchor wasn't decorative at all. It was the primary quantum coherence stabilizer, the single point that maintained consistent physics across all dimensional layers. More importantly, it had been installed with an emergency override function that allowed direct manual control in case the automated systems failed. The override had never been used because no participant had ever thought to look for it, and its existence was buried deep in technical documentation that most species considered irrelevant. Maya pressed a specific sequence of points on the reality anchor's surface, locations that corresponded to quantum resonance nodes she had identified during her preparation. She wasn't hacking the system or exploiting a software bug. She was using a legitimate function that the arena's designers had included but forgotten about. The arena froze. Not just the reality shifts, which stopped mid-cycle leaving the maze in a half-transformed state, but everything. The quantum processors continued running, but their output was locked into the current configuration. For the first time in 2 centuries of championships, the arena had become completely static. Supreme Overlord Kethvar found himself caught between dimensional states, his form partially adapted to a reality shift that would never complete. His 6 brains processed the situation instantly and reached an unanimous conclusion. This was impossible. Anomalous system state, ETCT80. Director Omnis announced, its voice carrying undertones of what might have been confusion if artificial intelligences could experience that emotion. Arena stabilization protoxicos activated by PARTISIAN. Interaction. The watching delegates erupted in chaos. Some demanded that Maya be disqualified for violating the spirit of competition. Others argued that she had demonstrated superior understanding of the arena and deserved credit for innovative tactics. The crystalline hegemony's representatives were particularly vocal, their logical minds struggling to process how established rules could produce such unexpected outcomes. But the championship rules were clear. Victory belonged to whoever achieved dimensional mastery of the arena space. By taking direct control of the reality anchor, Maya had literally mastered the arena's dimensions. Kethvar, trapped in his partial transformation state, could only watch as Maya walked calmly across the now stable platforms toward his position. His species' predatory instincts screamed danger, but his six brains couldn't identify any specific threat. The human carried no weapons and showed no signs of aggressive intent. "How did you know?" he managed to ask as she approached, his voice carrying genuine curiosity alongside frustrated defeat. "About the override function." Maya shrugged. "I read the manual." "Well, all of them. Took most of the night. But I figured if I was going to compete in your tournament, I should understand how it actually worked." But the manuals contain millions of technical specifications across 17 different programming languages. No single consciousness could possibly process that much information. "Maybe not all at once," Maya agreed, "but I didn't need to understand everything. I just needed to find anything that wasn't supposed to be there, or that worked differently than expected. Engineers do that all the time." She stopped just outside his reach, studying his partially transformed state with professional interest. "You know, your biology is incredibly impressive. 6 independent brains, adaptive physiology, enhanced sensory processing. You're basically the perfect organism for handling complex, changing environments." Kethvar's primary brain focused on her words while his secondary brains continued analyzing potential escape strategies. "Yet you defeated me without engaging in any form of combat." "That's because you were solving the wrong problem," Maya explained. "You saw the championship as a test of adaptation and combat superiority. All those reality shifts, the complex arena layout, the changing physics. The whole system was designed to reward the strongest, fastest, smartest participant. Which I am," Kethvar stated with simple certainty. "In conventional terms, absolutely. But the thing about engineers is that we don't usually solve problems by being stronger or faster than them. We solve problems by understanding them well enough to change the rules." Maya gestured to the frozen arena around them. "This simulation is incredibly sophisticated, but it's still just a system built by people who made assumptions about how it would be used. They assumed participants would compete within the environment, not take control of the environment itself." Director Omnis had been monitoring the conversation while running increasingly complex analysis routines. "The human's victory is technically valid. By achieving dimensional mastery through legitimate system functions, she has fulfilled the championship victory conditions." The announcement sent shockwaves through the galactic community. For 2 centuries, species had competed by sending their finest warriors, strategists, and enhanced beings. The championship had become a measure of biological and technological superiority, with victory going to whoever could best adapt to the arena's challenges. Maya Torres had won by recognizing that the greatest challenge wasn't adapting to the system, but understanding it well enough to make it adapt to her. As the arena began powering down and the quantum processors returned to standby mode, Kethvar's form completed its interrupted transformation back to normal state. He studied the human with newfound respect, his 6 brains reaching a conclusion that would have seemed impossible hours earlier. "Your species possesses capabilities that our evaluation protocols failed to identify," he admitted. "We underestimated human potential." Everyone does, Maya replied. It's kind of our thing. We're not the strongest or the fastest or the smartest at any one thing, but we're pretty good at looking at problems from angles that other people miss. The championship concluded with Maya being declared the victor by technical achievement, a category that had never existed before, but which director Omnis created on the spot to accommodate the unprecedented nature of her victory. The galactic community would spend years debating the implications of her win and revising their assumptions about human capabilities. As delegates began departing the Nexus station, Ambassador Velfar approached Maya one final time. Her crystalline structure had shifted to configurations that indicated deep contemplation, a state her species rarely experienced. Human Maya Taurus, she transmitted formally, the crystalline hegemony wishes to express curiosity about establishing diplomatic relations with Earth. We may have been premature in our assessment of your species' potential contributions to galactic civilization. Maya finished packing her travel bag and shouldered it with the same casual efficiency she had shown throughout the championship. That would be nice, though you might want to prepare yourselves for more surprises. I'm actually one of our less creative engineers. As she walked toward the docking bay where her modest ship waited, Maya reflected on how the galaxy would probably never stop underestimating humanity. It wasn't malicious, just a natural result of species evaluating each other based on their own evolutionary priorities. Humans had evolved as problem solvers on a world that presented them with endless unexpected challenges. They had learned to survive not by being the best at any one thing, but by being adaptable enough to find solutions that no one else had considered. The Quantum Reality Championships had been designed to test adaptation and superiority. Maya had won by demonstrating that sometimes the best adaptation was changing.